Namaste. Today we are going to talk about something very personal. We're going to talk about death. We're going to talk about how to console people if somebody really close to them has passed away. How to deal with it is a completely different question, and I can address it in a separate video. But today I will talk about how do you deal with somebody else's passing away in your friends or family, and how do you console these people, how do you talk to them? There is a lot of gap in what you should do and what you should say and how you should react and what is being done, because over the last 2 months I have been on the receiving end of this. I can tell you almost 99.9% of the time, nobody gets it right. There is no formula, there is no written prescription of what should be done. And also, you don't know what the state of the individual would be. Somebody could be crying, somebody could be breaking down, somebody could be shut down. So you really don't know when you go to meet this person or when you are talking to this person over social media, for example, what this person is going through. So, what would be most appropriate, irrespective? What would be the most appropriate way to approach an individual who's close to you, who's lost someone really close to them? So, the objective of today's video is to address how do you address an individual who has lost someone really close to them. Now, I've done it both ways. Like I have in the last so many years gotten it wrong so many times because just didn't give it enough attention, didn't pay enough heed to this. It's a very, very, very interesting space. Also very, very scary space. Most people, 99.9% of the people are afraid. They do not want to deal with death. It takes a lot of courage for you to even show up if somebody's passed. If you can help it, I know from experience, you will run away from it. If you can any which way help it, help not going to this person's place or not meeting with this person, you will not do it. So I know that, I understand that. And again, I would say that in the last 2 months, I really appreciate everybody who's made the effort to reach out to me since I lost my brother. And I recognize how courageous that is, how much a show of strength that is to just show up. So the first thing that I want to say that you should do, you could do, you're almost obliged to do if somebody passes away. Do not run away. Do not feel shy. Do not be afraid. Nobody, none of us will not face death in this lifetime. It is impossible to go through a lifetime and not face death. You will see your parents die, you will see your grandparents die. Hopefully, you will not see anybody else die, but you will definitely see these people pass. So, every single human being who has been born will witness death, if not once, more times than one, in their lifetime. Now, death is a very hard reality. It's a very difficult thing to wrap your head around because it's a very hard reality. This individual who's a part of your life is never going to come back. And so there is traditionally a lot of sadness associated with it. It is important to grieve, it is important to let out your emotions, it is important to express. And in recognition of this, the Indian system or the Hindu system is is very full of somberness, almost like sadness. If you have to come to somebody's place where somebody has died, you have to come with sadness, you have to come with a long face, you can't come smiling. Like, that's almost not right. You know, absolutely the opposite would be true. You have to go 360 degrees on the other side, and that would be true. You are already feeling so down and so depressed. You don't want to see another person's long face. You're feeling so hard, and you're feeling that it's so hard to pull yourself up. You don't want to see another long face that you have to pull up, right? Like, just think about it. You're feeling like you're down in the dumps, and somebody else comes and sits down and, with a long face. I'm so sorry, you're down in the dumps. Does that make sense? Like, do you want to really see another person sit down there with a long face? No, you don't. You really don't. So then what do? You can't go smiling. Obviously, that wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be the thing to do either. But you could definitely not go with a long face. You know what I'm saying? Just don't go with a long face. And we'll talk about what to do. But to begin with, don't go with a long face. Break into a smile. Help the other person up. If they're crying, they will still feel better if you're smiling. The second thing that I would urge you to not do is, in fact, that should have been the first thing, is to send stupid messages like RIP. RIP just does not make sense. What the hell is RIP? What is RIP? Rest in peace is not a concept that makes sense in our philosophy. All the messages, I have hundreds of messages, RIP. What? RIP. What is resting in peace? The body is burned, the soul is moving on. What the hell is resting in peace? Please do not use any kind of expressions like rest in peace, RIP, because this is really degrading. It's almost like you're tearing the other person apart. What are you talking about? What is rest in peace? In fact, I would just tell you to refrain from sending any messages. If you cannot say something nice and something positive about this individual who has passed away, or something nice and something positive about the individual that you are talking to, just don't say anything. You have no idea what the other person's going through. Just refrain from saying anything. Just because you have come to know it's somebody's birthday, just like you wish them birthday, just because you've come to know somebody's passed away, you send them condolences. What do you mean by condolences? What is condolences? What is RIP? So the first thing I would tell you to do is just refrain from social media. Don't do it. If you can't give a compliment to the one who's departed or a compliment to the one who survives, do not send ridiculously stupid messages. And the second thing I would say is show up. It's really hard. It is going to be met with God knows what, but just show up. And then what do you do when you show up? Once you show up, what do? You sit down, you put an arm around that person, and you just start with whoever you know. If you know the person, you again start with recounting their strengths. If you know the person who's departed, again begin with recounting their strengths. What they did, how they lived, how well they lived, how well they did, what beautiful souls they were, what difference they made. That is all that you need to do. You don't need to come. I mean, you are there in somebody's life, right? You are either a part of the circle of the person who's departed, or you're a part of the circle of the person who has survived the person. Either which way, you know somebody. I would tell you to use this opportunity to just compliment this somebody that you know. Sit down and shower this individual, whoever it is that you know, with compliments and um, acknowledgement of how good or how successful they have been in their lives. If you're talking about the individual who's departed, it will be of great solace and it will really console the person who has survived the individual. And if you're talking about the person who has survived, it will remind them that they're very, very strong individuals, they're very successful individuals, and they have seen a lot in life and they can get through this as well. Without saying this, do not say get over it. Do not say get beyond it. Do not say do not think about this person. Think about yourself. Do not say any of these things. Use this opportunity to just reiterate the positives of the person who has departed and the positives of the person who has survived. Now, once in a bit, you might come into this space where you almost find yourself consoling an individual who's crying. Now, all you need to do is hug the person who's crying. That's all you need to do. You still don't have to do anything different in what you have to say. So how do you deal with death? First thing you do, show up. Either on phone or on in person or even on WhatsApp, right? Or FaceTime or any kind of messenger, Facebook, any kind of social media. Show up and then use that opportunity to compliment the individual, either the person who's departed or either the person who has survived. Compliment, show up and compliment them. The other thing that is really important is the period that you have to spend reconciling yourself with the departure of an individual that who is really close to you. Now it could be your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your daughter, your husband, your wife, whatever. These are really close relationships and there is no reconciling with it. there is definitely no reconciling with it. You almost never get over it. It's like losing a limb. It cannot be overcome. But most people would send those, when they get the news, they will send those RIPs and condolences. And I got calls from pretty long lost friends. And I really appreciate them calling. But for those who are close to the individual who has gone, or the individuals who survive, here's what you need to do. You need to just keep in touch with these people, because as the formalities of death start to wind down, the loneliness and the void becomes more and more obvious. So it's really nice if you reach out to them on a daily basis with a personal note. They may not always reply, they may not always respond, but I can assure you they will always appreciate that you did that for them. And you don't have to stop doing that for almost a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months. Like, just keep reaching out to them. Keep saying you're such an awesome person. Keep saying you can do this. You will be able to, it's like almost like rehabilitation, right? If you lost a limb, you will have to go through 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or 2 years of physical therapy, prosthetic limbs, right? So as the individual reorients and figures what they can do next, who can they talk to, where should they draw their inspiration from, where can they get support from, depending on who they have lost. So that's their process of getting a prosthetic. And then there is rehabilitation. So it's a very long drawn process and you never really get over it. So it would be really nice if you care for these people, if these people are important to you, then almost like you send those good morning and good night messages, just send them a message, a personal message every day. Hey, how are you today? And what's the plan? You'd think that a person grieving would not want to hear about something as frivolous as that, but they do. So, and again, I'm saying this and I make this video being very aware that I haven't done the right thing ever in my life. And therefore, I'm not judging anybody for not getting it right. I'm just sharing from my experience and hoping that others can learn from it. So if you didn't do that, for me, it doesn't matter. But here's what you will need, or you will need to do if somebody else passes away in your life or in somebody you care about's life. You need to remind them that you are there. You need to remind them that they are there. They exist. They are wonderful people. They need to go on. You need to remind them that. It doesn't get over after the formalities are over. In fact, it just begins right after. So those are my 2 bits about death and such. It seems simple, it isn't. It is a very hard thing to do. You might be rejected, you might not get responses, you might not. Keep doing it. It is required. And before I leave, here's another fancy thought. Death is, of course, not the final departure. As surely as you will face with death in this lifetime, the same way you will also die at some point. And therefore, for those who have lost somebody who are watching this video, there is hope. You will see everyone you've lost again. So it's like you will be whole and hearty on the other side. You will meet every single person who you have ever lost. That person will be back in your life or in that state once you die. So there is hope, even for those of us who have lost people, loved ones in their lives. There is hope. You will see all of them again. It is not like it is not gone forever. It's just that this time on earth will be lived without them. So don't mind all the things I said, but I'll definitely urge you, don't send empty, stupid messages. Especially don't send RIP, like you couldn't even take the time to say rest in peace. That is really insulting. Do not do that. And when you reach this person or reach out to this person, make sure you say something nice and something with a smile. And also remember that a reference to death, a reference to the relationship that the individual has lost, just a reference, can be very, very hard for the individual to deal with. I was watching a movie and somebody just mentioned brother in the dialogues. And I was unconsolable for 15 minutes because it's very hard. You send a forward which mentions death to an individual like this who's just lost somebody. They will, obviously, they are trying to hold themselves together, they will fall apart. So be very sensitive around individuals who have just come out of this space, which is very, very um, difficult to deal with. Be very sensitive. Don't mention death. Don't mention the relationship. Don't talk about children if somebody's lost children. Don't talk about brothers if somebody's lost a brother. Don't talk about fathers if somebody's just lost a father. Be very sensitive around such people. So treat them like you would treat somebody who's lost a limb, like they are truly handicapped without their loved one in their lives in the physical form. So I hope this helps some people. I hope everybody listens to this video because this is really important and this is worth sharing. Namaste.